From the News Channel 5 Network, this is MorningLine.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on MorningLine. Nick Beres here on a Monday. I hope you had a good weekend, found a way to stay dry, and now you got to find a way to stay warm. It's snowing out there in some places, so just sit back and join in the conversation this morning. Call us here on MorningLine. Don't head out, and it's an interesting topic this morning. We're going to be talking about immigration reform. It's something that we've discussed before, and now there's going to be new changes coming down the pike. Or certainly, there's a lot to this. We're going to get into it this morning with our guest here, and we're going to take your phone calls at 737-7587 if you want to join us. Eben Cathey's with us. Good morning, Eben.
Hey, how are you doing?
Nice to have you on. And we were talking before it. He's with the Tennessee Immigrant and Refugees Rights Coalition, something you've certainly been paying close attention to. We've just had the midterm elections, a lot of changes happening in Washington, D.C. The president, busy right now, talking about everything with what's happening overseas, climate control, the stuff with ISIS. Also coming up domestically for him now, immigration reform, I suppose, is what it's going to come down to. Did many things change in your mind as a result of the outcome of this most recent election? With what's happening, especially in the Senate, and his possibility of getting what he wants and what he doesn't?
I mean, I think the politics maybe have changed a little bit, but yeah. I think, what the American people want and what immigrant families need right now, that has not changed. And I think that for many years now, we've been talking about immigration reform. When's it going to happen?
Right.
Last year there was a bill that passed the Senate that would have revamped our immigration system in many good ways.
House Republicans sat on that, though, did they not?
It was a bipartisan bill last year. We had an opportunity last year to have some kind of immigration reform. It wasn't a perfect bill. It wouldn't have done everything that both sides wanted. But, it was going to be a big step forward. Unfortunately, that failed in the House. So we've been talking about immigration reform for a long time.
Sure.
And I mean, this is the latest iteration. This is the latest thing that, our government can do to try and right our immigration system. And that's President Obama taking some kind of bold action to make sure that immigrant families can stay together.
Okay, yeah. Let me ask you then, from your perspective, what is immigration reform? Because that means different things to different people.
Yeah, that's a really good question, and we should get that out of the way first. Only Congress can change our immigration policies. Mm-hmm. Only Congress can create laws or change laws. Congress had an opportunity to do that last year. They were not able to do it. What the president's talking about right now, what's on the table right now, is called deferred action. Mm-hmm. We saw deferred action in 2012 for minors. Mm-hmm. Deferred action is kind of what it sounds like. It's deferral from deportation.
Meaning that there are those that are here that are undocumented.
Right.
Okay, and what he's talking about now are those that have children that were born in this country that are undocumented parents, correct? Now, when you say non-action, what would you say?
Deferred action.
Deferred action, rather.
Yeah.
Meaning as opposed to taking steps to deport them, giving them, is it amnesty? Is that a fair word to use? Not quite. It's not clear amnesty. What would it be?
I think it's allowing families to stay in the United States and allowing them to stay together. I mean, what people often forget is our president has deported millions of people, right? The president has control over the enforcement apparatus of our immigration system, right? He can choose who he deports and who he does not deport. I think that what he's heard from the American people, what he's heard from immigrant families across the United States is, we're tired of deportations. We're tired of families being torn apart. Congress was not able to pass a bill that would change our entire immigration system. The president can defer deportation. He can stop separating families right now. And that's what's on the table. We saw him do this in 2012 with deferred action for childhood arrivals, right? So deferred action for childhood arrivals, or DACA, has helped about a million young people apply for a work permit to stay in the country, to work legally, and to have a deferral from deportation for 2 years.
Yeah.
I think what we're looking at, what we're hoping happens, has not happened yet, and I think we've got our fingers crossed that the president's going to take some kind of bold action, but we hope he's going to extend a deferral from deportation to immigrant family members. I think that what we've heard is that he may do that for undocumented immigrants who have legal permanent resident relatives or citizen relatives, or perhaps even relatives who have deferred action for childhood arrivals.
Right.
This is a really great first step in trying to find a way to keep families together and doing everything that's in his legal power. Unfortunately, it's also going to leave a lot of people out. This is not this is not the total solution. The solution is for Congress to pass laws that change our immigration system.
As it stands, if that solution goes through, we're talking maybe as many as, what, 5.5 million people? Could it be that many?
Yeah, I mean, I think the reports we've heard, it could be anywhere from 2 million to 5.5 million. We just don't know. The White House has been fairly secretive about what exactly the program's going to look like.
And I know that's the focal point of what we expect to be looked at now. And I can tell you that many of our viewers and a lot of Americans that are here that see the situation, it's still a real hot topic, okay? And part of the issue is, all right, okay, we deal with the ones that are already here, and there's so many want to make sure that we don't have even more coming over and this keeps happening. I mean, there's some folks out there that just want to build a wall, if you know what I mean, which is not realistic. But what about with that regard? Okay, is it that others are going to see this and go, oh, well, if we just keep spilling over the borders, finding the gaps that we can get through, eventually, if we stick it out, we're going to be given citizenship or at least some type of amnesty?
Yeah, well, any action the president takes right now will only affect people that are here right now, right? And
yeah, I understand that.
And the criteria is fairly strict. I think that, you know, you have to pass a background check. You had to come either before or after a certain date. You may have to be a certain age. We don't know what it's going to look like, but it's going to be limited, right?
Okay.
And I think what you're addressing is the message it sends to the rest of the world,
Maybe, yeah, right.
And it's a great question, but I think here's the solution. It's for Congress to change our laws.
One way or the other.
One way or the other, to revamp our visa system, to talk about better ways, better legal channels for folks to come to the United States. Right now, there is no line to get in. If you live in a different country and you want to immigrate to the United States, it is very, very difficult. We need to change the whole thing. We need a comprehensive bill. We had that, and in Congress, the House failed to bring it up for a vote. That was last year. The president is doing what he can right now to right the ship. He's doing what he can on immigration. Very limited in scope. It's a good step in the right direction.
All right, let's see. Before we take our first break, we're going to take a call or two. 737-7587. What do you think as we go through this? If you have questions about it, clearly Eben Cathey with us, Tennessee Immigrant and Refugee Rights Coalition. You understand kind of the perspective he's coming to from this. I think you're in favor of reform. I think most people in general are in favor of some type of reform, but not everyone's in agreement on how to do that. But let's take a call or two from Mike. Mike, good morning.
Good morning, Nick. How are you?
Good, good. What's on your mind?
I support the guest that you have. He's made himself very visible, and my family and I are very pro-immigration reform. But the question I have is for your guest, if he could explain to me, my family and I are huge sports fans. We watch college, professional, every type of sport, mainly, I guess, because of the competition, and that it would be a live event. But with this sporting event, there is constantly more immigration, or more people, immigrants, lack of a better word, that are welcomed and brought in. Why do they not run into the same resistance as the average immigrant? And I understand, I don't want to, I understand there's money involved, but what allows them the privilege to avoid all the red tape and things like that the poor immigrants that are here are running into?
It's an interesting question. I'm thinking about, well, you certainly see there are an awful lot of foreign names on, especially you think NHL. I mean, hockey's so big elsewhere in the world, and we have so many players from outside. But I mean, I think there are certain. I'll let you go ahead and answer that. But I think I know the answer to some of this here. And again, it's different when you have a Cuban baseball player that defects. That's a whole different ballgame, defecting, is it not? And if you're seeking political asylum. But how would you answer his question?
All right. I think the easiest way to answer is think about how our immigration system works in total. There are 3 ways that people come to the United States right now. Okay. 3 big ways. There are lots of other little ways, but these are kind of the 3 largest ways. One is you have a family member that's here already. Right? If you have a family member that's here already who's a legal permanent resident or a citizen, they can sponsor you. Now, it may take you 10 years, 15 years, 20 years to bring your spouse or your brother or sister over, right? So that's another area that needs to be revamped, right? That's one way people come. There's 2 other big ways folks come. If you have, $500,000 to invest in a business, you get some special privileges to come over and try to do business in the United States. That's one other way. Another way, which is referring to your caller's question, is if you have a special skill,
right?
you're able to come over. If you know your employer can prove that they can't find anybody else who can fill that area, that need or that niche, they can bring you over. So people like scientists or professional athletes or others have a fast track to come to the United States. But I mean, keep in mind, these are tiny slivers of people that come to the United States, right? There's a lot more folks who just want to come so they can start a business, you know, or raise their family in the United States, just like people have been doing for hundreds of years. So I think that, you know, the baseball players or whatever athletes your caller's talking about probably came on that special profession notice.
Oh no, you're exactly that's it. Mary, do we want to go to a break from this? Yeah, we'll go to a break. But as we do, you just hit it on the head. That last one, and it was a good question from Mike. The bottom line, if you have a talent that for whatever reason the team finds they can't discover here in this country, then you pretty much get a free waiver. It's the way it is. If you've got a talent or a skill coming from another country that is not available here and it's badly in demand, you're going to go to the front of the line. It's just the way it is. Okay, and you know, as he says, it's a very good point. The folks who qualify in that category are very, very small. A tiny, minuscule minority of all those seeking to come to this country. We'll take a break. When we come back, if you're on hold, stay there. As you see, the question at hand, immigration reform, what is it we should do? What should the president do? What will Congress do? The number 737-7587. More right after this.